Hello and welcome to Some of My Friends Read Comics. We've got Vince.
The union's bane. We still don't got a grip on them.
We've got Chris.
I just do it.
I don't remember that quote. And I'm Kia. Welcome to the show.
She gets hit in the nose.
Oh, I see.
Oh, that's right. She got hit in the toes.
Oh, that's right. I just do it. Well, welcome to the show. Today we are reading some Captain America. We're revisiting Ed Brubaker's Captain America. It's been a long time since we picked this up. We had designs on, eventually reading through the entire run and getting to Captain America's death. This is our fourth time reading through parts of Ed Brubaker's Captain America. We're still not at the death yet, y'all. We're just barely reaching Civil War here.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. But we are reading issues number 18 through 24, which is technically two different storylines here. We'll talk about that in a second. And then we are continuing Knightfall. We are on chapter 16, Detective Comics 665. Batman's back is straight up broke. He's in a wheelchair. We've got another Batman running around. We'll get to all that. And we had a little break. I hope everyone had a good 4th of July.
Yeah.
Pew,
pew, pew.
Cool. I got nothing else to say about 4th. Let's keep going. Captain America time. So what are the
Canada Day.
Yeah, we missed Canada Day also.
No, yeah, that's where I was. I'm celebrating Canada Day.
Were you in Canada?
I was.
How about that?
Where'd you go?
I went to Vancouver.
Oh, very nice.
That's on the
very
west
nice.
side.
Yeah, west side of
West side Canada, born and raised.
West side Canada, yeah.
That's right.
Well, great. Did you, do any outreach for the podcast while you were in Canada? Spread some love out there, gain a foothold?
Yeah, I learned French. I spoke to a bunch of people. They didn't speak French. They spoke Chinese, so it wasn't effective. But we'll see if they become new listeners.
Okay. So wait, are you saying we should do tonight's episode in French or Chinese?
Let's do it in French and English. As the
Bonjour.
way.
Franglish.
Je suis. Some of my friends read comics.
Yep. Cool. All right. Do we have any French people in these comics? We might. There's a lot of international stuff going on here.
I feel like there's everything except French in these.
Maybe. Chinese? I think
there's a lot of Russian and some Latvians.
A lot of Russian. Yeah. All right, let's get into it here. So, Captain America, where are we at with the story here so far? Bucky is back, right? He's out and about as the Winter Soldier.
Cap and him aren't really talking.
Right, but he's like maybe starting to wake up a little bit. Yeah, is he? Oh, yeah.
I think he feels guilty about his time as the Winter Soldier, which was like he was an assassin who killed a bunch of people, and so now he feels guilty about his past, even though he was brainwashed. He's kind of embarrassed talking to Cap, so he's not hanging out with him.
Right, okay. And he's like gone rogue, and Captain America made him remember his life or whatever. So now he's like not being programmed as an assassin, but he's out doing whatever.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then meanwhile, other people that are going on is that Lucan, the head of the Cronus Corp, I guess has bought Roxxon at this point, which is like the big Exxon like oil company of Marvel. And he had killed the Red Skull in the first issue of this run, but now it seems like the Red Skull lives in his brain and sometimes wears a mask.
Some cosmic cube business.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like we've known that for a little while. But he's in his brain, and Red Skull is like trying to take it over.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then we've got Crossbones and the Red Skull's daughter, Sin. They're doing their own thing.
Yeah, they're barely doing anything. They're not important.
And then, they're kind of important in this.
And then we read an issue about a robot that people fought, and now that robot may or may not be coming back now.
Oh, that's what it was from. You're right. Okay. So let's jump into the story here. We got some Russian thugs being beaten up by Lucan's people. He's sitting in a car while it's all going down, talking to this reflection of the Red Skull in the mirror living in his brain. And they bring up one of these like Russian thugs. Oh, we got kitties in the background. Hey, kitty.
They're not Russian. It's like it's skinhead like English guys.
Oh, is that it? Okay.
Beating up like a Pakistani or foreign English people.
Got it. Okay, great. But Red Skull is specifically there to pick up Max Lomer, who was a friend of his great uncle's. Does this guy ever come back into play in these?
Yeah, he's Master Man.
He'll become back. The dude with the Nazi logo later.
Yeah,
this dude's a white supremacist. We can definitely like point him in a direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's again. So he sees like a skinhead like beating up a Pakistani guy. And he's like, I'm gonna make you like a super soldier guy.
I'm gonna make you famous. And so we see like Red Skull sitting there in the car as well. It's like, again, it's just some Cosmic Cube business. Is Max just wearing, or is Lucan just like, being forced to put on this mask and pretend he's the Red Skull? I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And he's talking back and forth, Lucan and Red Skull.
Yeah. And Steve Epting is back on art for this arc. I think he'd been kind of gone, and Mike Perkins and Michael Lark had kind of been covering for the past few issues. So
meanwhile, our main character, Captain America, Steve, he is in England. He meets up with Joe and Jackie, who at first I'm like, who are these people? And then later I'm like, oh, it's Captain Britain. And then later I realized, no, that's wrong. It's Union Jack.
Union Jack.
But Union Jack is not Jackie, because Jackie's the girl, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Joe is Union Jack. Jackie is Spitfire. Not confusing. But I feel like they never said Union Jack's name in the first issue. Maybe they did and I missed it. And I was just like, that's got to be Captain Britain. That's what I'm putting in my notes. That's what we got.
Also
Captain
not Jack
Britain.
Monroe, who's a Captain America.
No, that's
Too many
That's
Jacks.
the fake second Nomad who's dead.
Oh, no. He's in England. Bucky is in the UK too. He like stops a common thug who stole a purse. The old lady's so appreciative, and he's like, "What is this feeling?"
Because he knows that Lucan is coming to do some gala event in London. I don't know why Steve's in London, but I do know that Bucky's there because the Cronus Corp and Lucan's going to be there.
Steve seems to be chasing Bucky, right?
Yes, that seems to be his priority. We don't. He doesn't like. Does he explicitly say that? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Not
There's a lot
really.
going
Yeah,
on.
and then he starts following Cronus, just like, oh, let's keep an eye on them, and then they start doing supervillain stuff.
Yeah.
So he's like, well,
Yeah, they go. Him and Captain. I wrote Captain Britain still. Him and Union Jack and Spitfire go investigate some ships to like find some illegal shipments or whatever. And then we cut to Dallas, where some vice president of Roxxon is like, "Oh, I gotta go report to my new bosses at Cronus in England, who bought us out." Talking to his secretary, and his secretary is like, "Don't worry, it'll be fine. You're a vice president of such an important part of it." Then Crossbones and Sin show up and murder both of them. They are going to hijack the plane and head to London together. And then we got Captain America and Union Jack checking the logs on this ship while Spitfire's off doing something else. But they get attacked by goons, the fucking Nazis. And it's a group called the Master Race that literally have giant swastikas on their chest.
Yep.
What did you say the main guy's name is?
Master Man.
Master Man, yes, is a 70s Captain America villain that Roy Thomas created and set in the 40s at first.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, so is that part of like the Invaders comics that Roy Thomas made? Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I know Captain America's been fighting Nazis for forever, but there was something about the image of these people with like the giant logos on their chest that looked a little different. I don't know. There was something about it. Did y'all feel that?
He looks like he's in like a George Reeves like Superman strongman suit within the big swastika on him. And I think the swastika still like appears weird sometimes. Like I know some like things about it don't try to show any Nazi imagery, and some are very like blatant. This one's like swastika,
Yeah.
all over the art.
Yeah.
Like that's what we're done.
Yeah, this character not in the movies, believe it or not.
Believe it or not.
No one's. There's the same reason I guess they changed Red Skull. He's not. They never explicitly said he's a Nazi because they don't want to sell kids' toys with swastikas on them. That makes sense,
That's
right?
probably a good idea. You think we're gonna get a Disney Plus series of Master Man?
If he did, he would have a Hydra logo on his chest.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe like an episode of What If or something like really tangential to.
I don't
see.
I don't even think we're getting that, to be honest. But that's the end of issue 18, the first one here. On to issue 19. This is when I realized this is Union Jack, not Captain America. They said his name. They're fighting on the boat. There's a bunch of these Nazis here. There's a bomb that's gonna blow. And the boat explodes, but everyone gets off and there's okay. Except the main Nazi Master Man goes like flying away as like a rocket. I can't tell if he's flying or if it's just like the blast of the blow is really shooting him like a rocket. It's a little tough to say, but he's still alive.
He's got a roar and he's flying away like a firecracker.
Yep. Bucky is watching all this on the news, sees that Cap and Union Jack were there. And then Cap has to go meet with MI5. They're mad at him for rushing into the situation, creating this big old scene. And Agent 13, Sharon Carter, comes in. She's like, "Hey, he doesn't work for y'all. He's under my protection." And so he's got S.H.I.E.L.D. on his back. She gets him out of there. They go shake down some dude for info about like underground arms deal stuff. Bucky is kind of like tracking them the whole way as well. They fight some people at Raid. I'll be honest here. I really lost interest in the subplot at this point. And it was hard for me to really follow the other stuff that they were following that wasn't Bucky. Did y'all get that at all? Or was it like...
Yeah, I mean, it feels like at this point, like, and I remember saying at the time, it feels like, and I probably said this last episode too, Ed Brubaker, not really interested in writing Steve Rogers. Just...
Yeah.
So when the death of a Captain America comes pretty soon, not in this episode, it seems like,
it also does maybe feel like he knew he couldn't kill him off until after Civil War, and he knew he couldn't get to Civil War yet, and it's almost like this is a little bit of a spin in the wheels kind of a storyline until we get there.
Well, and Civil War is happening at this time, so it's like I don't think he can do much with Captain America, and you'll know that in the next arc when none of the issues focus on him, and they all focus on the supporting cast because he literally can't do Captain America because he's busy doing, other Civil War stuff.
Yeah. Chris, it sounds like you were maybe going to disagree.
Yeah, I mean this is just fun action stuff. Like I don't have.
I'm not saying it's bad necessarily. I don't want to say that. Well, let's keep going through it. We'll see. You help me fill in anything I missed from being bored with it. The lead Nazi, Master Man, he shows up at Red Skull's tower. He's like all burnt up. He's in a rage. He says he's going to eat that Amerikaner's heart. In that exact same accent, I assume. And Red Skull's like, don't worry, I just sent him an invitation. You're going to get to meet him real soon. On to issue 20. We got Sin and Crossbones. They're now landing in London. They're talking about setting off a bunch of explosives or something. Sin is like, I feel a little impersonal. And Crossbones like, no, that'd be great. Airborne attack. They won't see us coming. Bucky is investigating something, and he finds something, and he's talking to himself. He goes, how could he know about... Damn him to hell. Did we find out what this was? Do we know exactly what he found?
I don't know.
Is it something with Lucan? I don't know.
We get a little heart-to-heart with Steve and Jackie with Spitfire. He's like, hey, you're good. You should join the new Avengers. And she's like, I'm not leaving England. I do like her kind of through line as a character. We're not going to talk about her much because she ends up being pretty inconsequential. But Steve is kind of constantly asking her, like, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? And she's like, no problem. You haven't been with me in a while. I'm like way stronger than I used to be. We get a... Go ahead.
I do like Union Jack and Spitfire. They're fun characters to just introduce as like supporting characters who hadn't really done anything in a while.
Yeah, I mean, as like a globetrotting thing, I'm really liking that this book is like Captain America goes to a town and meets up with an old friend for an arc. Like he's, Falcon kind of rolls in, I think on the last episode or maybe even the one before that. He's got the main supporting cast of like Nick Fury, Sharon, Bucky, and himself, and then people just kind of come in, and we talked about this last time, but like Ed Brubaker's doing a really good job of like bringing in like old characters, and I don't even know where Union Jack and Spitfire fit in. They sound like they've been re-aged, like they were old or something.
Yeah, I think they were in the Invaders too.
Okay. Which, as we said before, was retroactively stories that weren't published in the 1940s, but published in the 70s about the 40s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so we get the next day. Sharon and Steve are flying in a car towards Cronus headquarters. This flying car feels like it sticks out a little bit, but there's like a blimp and some planes defending, and Steve's like, no, it's a distraction. But they got to deal with all this stuff. Alec is about to throw a big party. He is talking to the Red Skull in the mirror. There's a little bit of like a who's in charge here kind of thing where Lucan is like, haha, my plan worked better. And Red Skull's like, this is all my plan from the start. Steve busts in through one of these windows in the blimp, fights a Nazi or something like that. Spitfire's on the blimp. Steve, I think, just breaks through some window in the building. She takes out a bunch of Nazis, but she sets the blimp on fire. And Lucan and his guests are seeing this blimp go down. They're like, what's going on? Winter Soldier is up on the building. He's got Lucan in his crosshairs, but he gets distracted by the blimp and Cap being there, so he's like off his game. And then Sin and Crossbones are there. They are they've hijacked one of Lucan's ships and they're planning to just fly it straight into his building. And Lucan presses this emergency button. Like imagine, what do they have those life alarm whatever things for senior citizens? He's got one of those that summons a giant robot out of the ground.
Yeah, it's the robot button.
Yes, the robot button, which I feel like he pressed it a little late. It looked like that plane was very, very close to the building.
Yeah, but has that robot just been sitting under this particular building in London for forever? Or did it, like, burrow over here? Or, like... I mean, if you're going to blow the cover of that thing, then, you gotta wait till, like, a blimp blows up to be like, I guess this is the time.
This is when I'm gonna use it. I will say, giant robot instantly perked me back up with this story.
Yeah, it has laser eyes that can like cut through anything.
There you go.
I really like this though because it's there. I realize I like multifaceted fights or fights on multiple angles. Where people are fighting against each other for a variety of reasons. And I like the idea that Captain America, Bucky, and Crossbones and Sin are all trying to come kill Lucan completely independently. It makes me very happy. Yeah. I think it's very cool.
It is nice. It is nice.
And that they aren't on the same page with each other. Yeah, as far as just like it's setting up. It also makes it a really fast read, which is
right.
Good.
Yes. And then Cap and Bucky both kind of independently realize the Red Skull has returned. As we go into issue 21, which is the last one in this storyline. Before we jump
issue
to the next
21, last issue of 21 First Century Blitz. So,
oh, that's right. This story arc was called 21st Century Blitz. I don't know if we
I think it was collected as Red Menace Volume 2, though, if you're looking for it in that way. But you're probably on Marvel Unlimited or like an omnibus at this point.
It's been collected in so many different ways here, I think. So onto the big kind of fighting issue here. Bucky runs straight at this big robot, and he gets blasted away. And Cap comes up to him, and Bucky's like, "Oh, it's just like the robot we fought back in the war," which we read about in that one flashback issue. But Cap is like, "Man, go ahead."
I forget that this is probably the first time they fought alongside each other this entire run, or in 70 years, as it were.
It's a little bit almost like understated with them, where they're almost like kind of back in the groove a little bit, and Cap is just kind of talking about stuff with them kind of casually. He's like, "Hey, this is a stronger version than we've seen in the past."
Yeah, he's immediately trusting him, like, "Here, hold this."
Yeah, he gives him a weapon. He's like, "You can use this concussion charge," and Bucky doesn't like. Yeah, Bucky uses it the right way. They have good teamwork, just like the old days.
Yeah, but there's no scene like after this that they're like Captain America's like, "Man, that felt like being back on an old glove. Like we haven't played together and on a team and so long, but like we just fit together, man. That was crazy." I would have liked a scene like that.
Well, I mean, there kind of was where Cap started to say that, but then he turns and Bucky's gone.
Yeah, I mean, read my /fiction from Captain America: Winter Soldier for more of that.
Oh yeah. Crossbones and Sin, excuse me, are also about to kill Sharon, but somebody stops them. Like a mystery person stops them, saying it's not part of the plan. I assume this would have been like Red Skull, maybe, but we don't actually see. Then afterwards, this is all kind of on the news. There's a video message from the Red Skull claiming credit for the terrorist attack and kind of announcing that he's still alive. The superheroes did not want to give any comment, but Lucan definitely issued a statement saying, "I'm caught in the middle of all this superhero bullshit and trying to talk about Congress, drafting legislation to stop them, blah, blah, blah."
You think Lucan needed to use a VPN to like send his two separate messages?
Ooh, yeah.
He's like, "Here I am at the Red Skull's lair. I hate the superheroes and I'll kill them all." And Lucan's like, "We have to rearrange his room so it doesn't look like
film the other side of the room, switch everything around."
That's funny. So I actually really like this, as much as I don't like Civil War, and I think we covered that years ago at this point. Probably when Captain America 3 Civil War came out, so like 7 years ago now. But what I like about this, and this issue was published the same month as Civil War #1, is this one does a much better job of like trying to like this bad guy trying to tie on to like the Superhero Registration Act. He's like, "I am just a simple businessman trying to conduct business," and then whatever bullshit supervillain superhero war is just going on, whatever beef the Red Skull has with Captain America is like fucking up real people's lives. And this is just careless. Like we should legislate this. And I'm like, you sneaky bastard. Like, this is good stuff. This is a good, like,
Mhm,
light tie
mhm.
to Civil War without, like, being too lumped into it. And I liked it. I like it a lot.
Yep. And that's kind of a little bit of the end of that, except we got kind of an epilogue where Bucky is on the phone talking to someone who's like, hey, I'm calling you back in. And he's talking to Nick Fury. What? And Bucky's like, I'm going to need a new arm. All right, cool.
Nick Fury, he's been talking to Nick Fury this whole time?
Yeah, the original
Then
OG Nick Fury.
What is Captain America? Well, I guess Nick Fury isn't running S.H.I.E.L.D. at this point either, is he?
Nope. Yeah, when we kind of get some more info on that in the next 3 issues, we're keeping on going here. Anything to say about these first 4 before we jump to the Civil War stuff?
I mean, I feel like I think the reason we didn't cover this, it's been like 30 something episodes since we've covered this. It's
been a long time. Yeah,
it's been January 2022 is when we last covered this, episode 171, and part of it is like because these are kind of like the meandering arcs that are like killing, like they're just killing time to get to the death of Captain America, which I think is where this book like really ramps up again. Like the Winter Soldier arc is really good, and the Death of Captain America arc is really good. And these like 10 issues are kind of like, I mean, they're fine, but they're not. I think up to the same standard.
I don't disagree with Chris though. It is like good, solid, political espionage kind of action stuff. It is just like I know the good stuff is coming. Let's get to that.
Well, that's anyway, how it started off so good, and then the good stuff is about to come. But this is kind of like a weird lull where you're kind of like, I mean, this is really good by compared to every single other superhero comic dealing with Civil War at this time. But I also don't care.
All right, so let's jump into the Civil War story. It's 22 through 24. It's called The Drums of War. And part 1 starts with Sharon at a psych eval because something's happened and she kind of needs to get a psych eval to see if she's fit for duty.
And we should mention Epting gone after those last 4 issues.
Oh, that's right. Who did these 3 issues?
Perkins,
here?
I think.
Perkins, yeah.
Mike Perkins.
It still looks good. Does he have the same inker?
It's the same colorist, Frank D'Armata, if I'm not mistaken. Is just so if you just the line work just isn't as clean, but the coloring still's got that kind of like muted color tone, so it looks pretty seamless unless you know what you're looking for. Yeah, it's all Frank D'Armata for this entire run.
And these stories also do a nice thing, at least this issue does, where Sharon, like the scenes that are in the present where she's in the therapist's office are all kind of in a black and white, almost kind of definitely a muted color palette. And then the main scenes that are all flashback is kind of the colorful ones.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I don't want to let slip. We didn't go into too much about the fight, but like Steve Epting drawing like a Iron Giant, like 60-foot tall robot, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. It's really good. Highly recommend looking at pictures of giant robots, and specifically this giant robot. But we kind of hear Maria's story about why she's in a little bit of trouble at work. Got to figure out what's going on with her. So she flashes back. Maria Hill, who was running S.H.I.E.L.D. at the time, has called her down. They are watching video footage of Captain America fighting S.H.I.E.L.D. agents everywhere, all over the Civil War business. That's essentially just fully broken out at this point.
You know what I do appreciate though? All these images are original art and not just copied pictures from Civil War. Because a lesser artist would do that.
Yeah.
I hate when they're like, you didn't get this camera angle. We talk about this all the time, but I'm like, how did you get this exact same camera angle that was in the panel? Like they at least like redrew everything in the style of this book, and I appreciate that. Yep. Thank you, Mike Perkins.
Yep. And Sharon's like, well, he's defending himself. They're shooting at him, and Maria Hill really wants to get Captain America back on S.H.I.E.L.D.'s side. So she's planning to use Sharon and her personal relationship with Cap to, go and talk to him and get him back.
Or Hill also says, or we shut him down now before it becomes a legit problem.
Right.
Like, why'd you pull guns on him? Because I have to shut him down if he's going to be a problem. I can't have him just like running around doing bullshit. Which
and of course, she's a little upset that Maria Hill used her private life like that. She's talking to the therapist about that.
Why was she assigned to him?
I know, right?
If they have a dating history, like, I mean, I guess you want like a handler that like maybe knows him, so you can like read and exploit that relationship. They're spies. They're assholes.
That makes sense. Yeah,
I guess.
We do get a nice little scene with Dum Dum Dugan in the hospital. He got caught by some anti-hero violence there, but he's going to be okay.
I want to say he fought him like in the first issue of Civil War. He fought Captain America and got his ass kicked.
Maybe that's it.
Did he? I don't remember. I remember in the first issue they ask him to follow a law that Congress has not passed, and he says, "I don't want to," and then they immediately shoot him, and I'm like, "Oh, so what's happening?
Yeah.
we're not gonna wait."
Usually, there's also like a rollout date, at least for like finance laws. They're like, this becomes active in 6 months. Get your shit in line.
No, yeah, they're like, "Hey, let's wait for the Supreme Court to strike down the superheroes."
Right. Like I mean, like at least like our company and like it has to be like you got to give us time to be able to interpret these laws like before we can like enact them. We have to like change shit in our business. So and how we're gonna respond to these. I assume that the superhero lobbying group, which I guess there is none.
Maria Hill is like, shoot Captain America in the head if he's not going to agree to this in the future.
Yes. So Sharon goes to talk to Steve. They meet on some rooftop somewhere, and they were like, "We're in public. We got to go somewhere private."
Is it better to do like dead drops and like meetings in public rather than like in a hotel room where you could be jumped or something? Because everybody always meets in public in this book.
And then
I wish that Cap, in the tradition of these movies, were just like a sports team, like Cap, like a completely
he comes in his costume. Doesn't everybody in Team Cap in the movie like wear like a baseball hat with no logo on it?
Yeah, I feel like that's par for the course for especially Winter Soldier, where just everybody's wearing sports
cap.
No one can tell who you are if you just put a cap over your face.
Mm-hmm. And if those of y'all who know the movie a little better, it feels like Sharon and Black Widow are kind of filling the same roles here. Like Black Widow just knew Cap the best. They're not romantically entangled, but they knew each other the best. So she's kind of the more conflicted one in the movies.
Yeah, it's a unique position in when Winter Soldier takes over, because Winter Soldier knows Black Widow from when she was in Russia. So it's like a twist on that of like, oh, you knew her before she came to America.
Yeah, that is cool. I hope we get to that.
Then Sharon and Steve are like, this rooftop isn't the right place. Let's go to a room somewhere where we can talk. And that's all they did. They just talked. And we see Steve putting his shirt back on after a very heated talk.
Are you being like a parent to me? Be like, what happened? They just talked.
They just talked, and he took off his shirt for a minute. That's all it was. That's all the proof that we have. Really, we don't even have proof that Steve took off his shirt. It looks like he just maybe lifted it up to itch his belly or something. And then so after that, they're talking about the issues, and Steve's like, "I'm not going to change my mind. Government control, everything from Civil War, basically."
That doesn't make like sense at all.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, especially just think about like if we just had like more cops with masks and less accountability. Like, that would work out better, right?
Yeah. Good.
Like, that's what Cap is arguing for. He's like, no, we need the freedom to beat up people with a mask and not have any accountability. Like, no, I'm good.
I mean, to refute that analysis of what's going on, he's saying that being part of the local or federal apparatus is actually worse, which is, yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't
listen. There's two sides to this issue, and I don't think we're gonna have a Civil War argument on the show here. I don't want this podcast to rip each other apart.
I do think if I could shoot fire out of my hands, and somebody says, "Now you're a cop or a soldier," I'd be like, "That seems a bit much. I'll just chill and not use my fire hands, except to heat my tea or coffee." That's what I would do, right? Am I allowed to do that?
I would be like, "You can't tell me what to do. I will continue to fight crime on my own terms."
What if we had a podcast split where for the next year during our Civil War, I record every week, 1 week with Vince and 1 week with Chris, and we do two. It would be Dynamite and Collision podcast. We'll do one called Some My Friends, and the other is called Of Read Comics, and they'll be alternating weeks.
But Chris, if you ever need me, you can text me if you really need me for an episode.
Okay.
Look, I tried to reach out, but the lawyers told me I couldn't talk to Vince.
That's a good wrestling joke right there. All right. So they're talking, and Sharon has secretly been luring Captain America into a trap if he doesn't agree, and we see the agents kind of flying to their location, and they like do an explosion and bust down the door. but there's nobody there. Sharon gave him a fake address. She would never betray Cap. Oh, her heart took over. And this is why they've got to check to see if she's fit for duty. And the therapist dude is like, I don't know yet. We'll meet in 2 days and we'll keep talking about it. And then afterwards, we see this psychiatrist guy go meet with the Red Skull. Oh my goodness. He's not really a psychiatrist at all. He's using a shape-shifting device. He is some guy who faked his own death, who has a monocle, a beard, one of those cigarette extender things, and a big scar on his face. It's Faustus.
Dr. Faustus.
Dr. Faustus.
Dr. Faustus. He's got a good look. I don't remember anything about who Dr. Faustus is, to be honest, and he doesn't come up in the next 2 issues.
Red Skull.
He'll be back.
Red Skull assembles a pretty good looking crew.
It's a great look on this guy.
Like this bearded monocle, like kind of bigger bear guy. Yeah, he looks great.
Mm-hmm.
He looks great with his like his pinstripe suit. It's a good look. And then he's got like on the other end, he's got like Zola, who's a cool henchman. Like he's got a good.
We haven't even gotten to Arnim Zola yet.
He's head in his belly. Faustus is a psychiatrist villain originally from Captain America in the 70s. Who's again Brubaker bringing back some old timey characters and rejuvenating them in a way that it makes them cool.
Yeah, and Spitfire is from like 1976 is her first appearance in the Invaders.
Right.
Yes, which I think we talked about, right? Yeah. She's an Invaders character.
Yeah. Just confirming that you were right, because Chris got some more points on the board for being smart.
If we had to stop the show every time Chris was right, we'd never get anything done. All right, on to Captain America 23 here, a second part of the Civil War story. We got Bucky sneaking into some SHIELD base through the air vents. He attacks Nick Fury. Oh my God, what? No, it's just a life model decoy. I love Nick Fury and his life model decoys. I think it's like my favorite Nick Fury thing.
That's a missed opportunity they've had for like the MCU. They have not done enough life. Maybe there's a Secret Invasion TV show I have not watched a single frame of. Maybe they're in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe somebody kills him and it's like he's a robot.
They definitely should have Nick Fury like be killed and be like, oh, it was just a robot.
Yeah.
But I guess that's confusing when there's also Skrulls on board in that series. Is he a Skrull? Is he a dead Skrull or is he a dead robot? Who knows?
Skrulls shapeshift back when they're dead. Robots just turn into robots.
Maybe it's a Skrull shapeshifting into a robot to look like a dead robot, but he's an alive Skrull.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the show. None of that maybe happens. So we have this is under the real Nick Fury's orders that Bucky is going in to essentially hack one of these life model decoys, inject some nano Trojans into it, and upload stuff to Nick Fury. So basically Nick Fury can like be the eyes and ears in this thing. Later we see he can even like transmit his own speech through this life model decoy. It's great. And they talk about Civil War again here, again getting a little bit of like, oh, the issues, Cap doesn't agree, blah, blah, blah. Bucky's got to fight some inconsequential agents on the way out. And then we see Red Skull and Dr. Doom talking in Latveria. Doom is going to deliver some device to Cronus for him. It's going to be a one-time use thing. We don't know exactly what it is.
I assume it's just a regular gun, right? Not some sort of time gun.
Who knows? Who knows what kind of time, what kind of gun it is? Was Captain America in this issue, by the way? Okay, cool. So. That's what I thought. I didn't have him in any notes.
So this arc is gonna go from like September to November, and then Captain America stops until the end of Civil War, which is like in February, and then Captain America 25, the Big Death, is in March. So this book is gonna stop for like 4 months at this point.
That makes sense.
Interesting.
So he's killing time. I remember in the interviews, Brubaker said like, I can't use really Captain America that much narratively because he's too like busy with Civil War, and I just didn't want to recap those stories or like add more like embellishment to it. So he said like I'm going to focus on the supporting cast for these issues. So it was like a Sharon issue, and this was like a Bucky issue.
It's a good way of filling the time of like we do have all these other characters, and Steve, as we talked about, is kind of the least interesting character. So
yeah,
it's making lemons out of lemonade out of lemons, I guess. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's all I wrote down, though, for issue 23 here. It was a pretty quick moving issue there. On to number 24, we've got Sharon talking to Maria Hill. Her evil supervillain therapist said that her access should not be denied. She's okay. Dum Dum Dugan also gave a good recommendation. So she's still okay to keep working, but she is being reassigned. They're going to put her on the task force that's hunting Nick Fury. Then she
That
goes.
seems like another conflict of interest. Like she just got off of like choosing her friends over her company, but maybe
Yeah.
that's what their intent was. Maybe they're spies. Maybe they're like we're gonna catch her in a double cross.
Just go like save guard a warehouse or something. That'd be the job for her.
She's on desk duty for like the next 6 months.
Yeah, maybe they just want her to quit. Maybe they don't want to pay her pension.
Get her to quit. So she goes to meet she meets a Nick Fury life model decoy in her room who kind of reveals itself, does an eye scan to make sure it's really her, and they talk for a bit about everything that's going on. And, she kind of fills her in, says she's on the team that's hunting Nick Fury and all that. Cap, meanwhile, is attacking some Hydra agents and sneaking into their base, steals their clothes. He is looking for something. Do we know exactly what he's looking for here? Just general stuff? Yeah, sure. He fights a whole ton of them. Then he fights a bunch of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents that are starting to come down. Actually, he doesn't fight them. Sharon Carter flies in with her flying car and helps zap them all down and gives them a flying car ride out of there. So he's all right. And then we see Red Skull meeting with Arnim Zola. I like this redesign on Arnim Zola, too. He's that dude with just a big face that's on a screen on this robot chest.
Toby somebody in the movies.
I love Toby somebody.
What is his name? He's tiny. He's a real tiny guy.
We don't really see what he's going to get up to yet, but that's the cliffhanger there. I feel like we're going to try and get back to some Captain America pretty quick. I don't know. I feel like there's not a ton to talk about in these Civil War issues because it is kind of like just filling in some of the story, like you said, with the side characters. I don't know. What do y'all got to say?
I think it's still pretty good. Like I don't think it's as big and important as what it's about to come and what has come before. But I mean, it's still like good little like intrigue stories. Like plot wise, I like everybody collapsing upon each other. It seems like the Red Skull's got like 3 different schemes in play that I know are going to end up paying off. So it feels more like episodic television of like we've got kind of like a small plot, but then we've got like definitely like pushing the plot forward in a variety of different ways. But these all don't feel like much is happening because like the Bucky thing with the life model decoy, what's going to happen with that? We don't really know. It's kind of like the audience is a little in the dark about what's coming next.
Which I do like. It's kind of better than the opposite, which happens a lot of time where it's like, all right, we know the secrets, we know everything, we're just waiting for the heroes to discover it. So I kind of sometimes like being left in the dark. Chris, you got any thoughts here? Chris has no thoughts.
Did we lose Chris? Oh no.
Chris, what happened? Did the cats get to you?
Oh no. So anyways, we'll text Chris and find out what happened to him. But in the meantime, I did read Winter Kills, which we did skip for this because it's like a double size issue. Kia, I don't think you had a chance to read this.
Nope.
It's a one shot around Winter Soldier, and it's basically like him remembering being part of the Invaders and going out to like some thing on Christmas with Toro that was like the young Human Torch, and they dated some ladies, and then he teams up with the Young Avengers and like leads the Young Avengers on a on some type of like aim or raid place, and it's he remembers them, and then he feels sad about killing Jack Monroe. It's actually a pretty darn good Christmas issue. I may put it on the Christmas list. But it's kind of just like it's I guess that probably came out in December when this book was on pause. So there.
Now, we have officially lost Chris from the call here. Is this potentially related to the rolling brownout that you had?
I don't know. We live several hours apart. I would hope not. So.
Well, if it's a rolling brownout, then maybe it's just reaching him several hours away. Oh, is he back?
I'm here.
Yes.
Yes.
Chris
is back.
We're glad you're back.
All
is everything okay? Did the cats get to you?
Yes, it was cat related.
Oh, wow. All right. Well,
they're rolling cat out.
So, Chris, we were just getting to some final thoughts about Captain America here. You got anything?
I really liked the 21st Century Blitz or whatever, the English story. I thought it was really fun. It did a good job of pushing everything forward. I liked that every issue has some action, is moving the big stories forward, but it also has some what's Master Man going to do? The Civil War stuff does feel like it's treading water a little bit, but yeah, the first few issues, I was like, yeah, this is really fun. It looks amazing. So yeah, this is pretty good comics, and then it is kind of treading water in the back half.
Yeah. Well, cool. I think we are ready to move on to Knightfall, which is a pretty eventful issue, I would say.
Not what I expected, honestly.
Not what I expected at all. Let's get into it here. This is Detective Comics 665. Batman's had his back broken for a few issues here. Written by Chuck Dixon, art by Graham Nolan. And this cover by Kelly Jones is another one with this giant long-eared Batman. Who looks especially deranged. He's gleefully attacking a thug with a piece of wood with nails sticking out of it. This is as we know at this point, it is the fake Batman. It is John Paul Valley, who is filling in order to convince criminals that Batman is still up and running.
I constantly forget this.
Yes.
When this issue started, I'm glad that the narration gave it to me, because even though we're reading a book about like Batman not being Batman, I still forgot. I'm like, oh, there's Batman and Robin, and then it's like, this isn't Batman. I'm like, oh, right.
Yeah.
How would you forget this? Bruce Wayne is another character in the story.
Listen, it's been a month ago.
With Batman backhanding somebody, which Batman is known to backhand people in front of Robin. There's a whole meme about it.
Yeah. But it has been a month since we read these. I think that's fair to forget what's going on for a second. But the whole thing is being narrated by Robin, who's like, this is the same. It feels a little different, really. And yeah, John Paul, just like the cover, is a little bit more extreme. Maybe not just like the cover. He's like a raging lunatic on the cover. But he's definitely using some more extreme methods here. Meanwhile, Bruce is in a wheelchair at home. He's going to call Dr. Chandra Kinsolving's office. She's the one who's been taking care of him, and they've got a little bit of a romance going. And her secretary has specific instructions to tell Bruce Wayne exactly where the doctor is at all times if he asks. And she happens to be making a house call to a Jay Drake. And Bruce is like, wait a minute, that's Tim's dad, Jack Drake. He lives next door.
So wait. So like, I'm assuming the Wayne Manor is like in a fucking mansion, right? Like out in the middle of goddamn nowhere, right?
Right.
Tim Drake's dad lives in in the mansion part of town?
Yeah. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Really? I thought he just lived like in town, like he was just some schmo.
No,
that's what I thought. But it does seem that he lives in like maybe a really nice apartment complex that's next to the really nice mansions.
Jack Drake is just a rich guy who then Tim Drake is Bruce's neighbor and is like, I know you're Batman.
Really?
Yep. That's how it goes. Yeah.
Interesting. Chris gets another point on the board. And then Tim's dad had a coma recently.
Yes, he almost immediately gets wiped off the board so that Robin can go to France or whatever to train.
Thanks, Dad.
My thing accidentally went into the next issue. So the backhanding that John Paul Valley does is next issue. My mistake.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I was like, I didn't read this. I was very confused.
So Bruce is thinking, maybe I'll have Alfred drive me over there, because again, when he says next door, it's not like right next door. He's like a mansion that's isolated. It's like the next
like
plot of land.
7-minute drive.
Yeah.
It's like those of y'all who don't live in mansion world. Like I assume it's like driving from someone's ranch to another ranch.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
That's
exactly.
So Bruce sees Alfred sleeping. He's like, I don't want to wake him. I'll just let him rest. So we'll see what Bruce does instead in a second. We see Chandra, Dr. Kinsolving. She's checking on Jack Drake. Some nice old lady neighbor is heading to the movies. And she's like, do you need anything, Jack? I'm like, no, I'm all right. But we see some guards that are kind of like standing there.
No, those aren't guards. Those are gun
not
goons.
Guards, like gun goons.
Evil,
evil people.
Which then means these gun goons also know that Tim Drake is Batman or Tim Drake is Robin.
Tim Drake is Batman.
He should be Batman, not this motherfucker they hired.
So he's like a child. He's 14 years old.
I feel like he really like we need to call Dick Grayson or somebody like.
Yes.
John Paul Valley like jump leveled like too much. Like I think he got promoted too fast.
Yeah, they need Dick Grayson or like that episode of Batman the Animated Series, or it might be a Superman Animated Series episode where Superman pretends to be Batman for one episode.
Right. You have to think that Batman has a business continuity plan, right? Like a BC plan. Like if he were to go down, who he'd want, and do you think John Paul Valley was on that list?
No, yeah, he's like number 27.
Yeah.
Like I know he's probably grooming like future people for that.
Oh, he's grooming all right.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So on to let's forget all that and move on to what took this issue to an 11 out of 10 for me. All right, we got Bruce is staking out the apartments. He has rolled himself over to these apartments in his wheelchair, and he's hiding by a tree. And he's kind of brooding there. I was like, oh, I'm going to tell Chandra my secret identity. But then he spots some of these armed thugs who are like in a tree right next to him. And he has spotted them, but they somehow haven't spotted him. I don't get it, and I love it. And he's like, oh, it's got to be Bane's men. We cut to Bane for a moment. There's a rare scene without his mask on. Him and his crew are happy. They're taking over everything. He's not doing much. I think it's just a chance to see Bane for a second.
Bane, notoriously not on the side of unions.
Not on the side of unions at all. Jean-Paul and Robin have beaten up some goons, and Jean-Paul's like, "This is too slow. If we're trying to let everyone know that Batman's back, we gotta go to the top. We gotta go where the prime mobsters are." And Robin's like, "Bane's the top dog now. We're not supposed to go after Bane. Batman told you he was too dangerous. Don't do that." And Jean-Paul's like, "I don't care. I'm Batman now. I'm in charge."
I did think this was an interesting, like, where do you try to take on, like, if you're going to, like, rid the city of crime, do you start at the low level and work your way up? I think that's how, like, lawyers do it, because they want to get people to, like, you know, snitch on people higher and higher above them. But I'm like, is it better as Batman to just cut off the top? I don't know, Jean-Paul, you might be right on this. But Robin's like, dude, we are in this position because somebody just got their ass kicked and almost killed by Bane. Like, maybe we should come up with a plan, not just going half-cocked. And Jean-Paul Valley's like, fuck that. We're going to do it.
You know, there's also a lot of superhero stories I feel I've read where they do take out the top dog, but then, like, the void gets filled with somebody else who's even more dangerous or something like that. You know how it is.
Yeah, I think, we just saw that. Like, you take out the Penguin, and then the Riddler's going to take over or some shit like that.
Mm-hmm. Now here's the rest of the wheelchair stuff. This is really the best scene in the book.
It really is.
So Bruce takes a stone and he, like, skips it somewhere to distract one of the armed goons there. He sneaks up behind him in his wheelchair, whacks him with a cane a few times, and then he's like, "Yeah, oh, that was kind of tough. Took all my energy. Couldn't put a lot of strength behind that, but I knew exactly where to hit." So then he kind of, like, casually rolls himself up to the apartments where he's seeing these goons are loading Dr. Kinsolving into the van. And he just rolls right up there, and they, like, see him, and they're like, "Hey, that guy, get him!" Which is just so funny to me. Is Batman just, like, rolling up to a scene of the crime in a wheelchair?
I forgot.
We get some.
Yeah, I literally forgot that, like, Bruce Wayne was. I don't know why I didn't think Bruce Wayne wouldn't be involved in this book. Yeah. I just thought, like, I was like, oh well, now I guess we're gonna do, like, Robin dealing with a crazy Batman and Bruce Wayne just kind of gonna be like, maybe checked in once. I didn't realize he'd be, like, proactive and, like, being in fights. But it's really cool because it still, like, sets out, like, right, we're still dealing with Batman, guys. He just can't walk, but that doesn't mean he's not Batman.
Yeah.
It's really good. I really like it.
So we get some parallel scenes with Jean-Paul and Robin storming into the mobsters' headquarters. Robin thinks this is a bad idea. We get Jean-Paul. He's going to run after someone named Tough Guy Tony. He's their main lead to Bane.
And Vinny is here also.
Who's Vinny?
He's going to show up later. He's going to talk to Tony.
Oh, is that? Oh.
He's the guy in the green suit.
I thought that was Tony.
No, okay. Tough Guy Tony says, "Take the creep, Vinny." And then Vinny, who's in the green suit, goes, "Sure, Tony." Once again, another Vince, who is a shitty guy.
I see. That's why we paid attention. Okay. We have back at the apartment, the mobsters just, like, knock Bruce over. They're like, "We don't care about some cripple in a wheelchair," and they drive off with Chandra in the van. They've kidnapped her. And Bruce passes out as Alfred runs onto the scene. Then Jean-Paul, who's this guy they're talking to at the very end? Is that Vinny? Is that Tony? Who is this? Is this someone different? I don't know. It's somebody who's like, "I'm only doing this because Bane has my kids." That guy.
That's Tony. That's Tough Guy.
Okay,
Tony.
that's Tough Guy Tony. And Jean-Paul is like, "All right, we got a lead. We're going after Bane." And so, yeah, that's where we are now with this, which I think did really advance the plot pretty well without really a lot of, like, Bane, without a lot of plot stuff necessarily. Like, yeah, Chandra got kidnapped, but it is mostly just kind of seeing what Jean Paul is going to do with what he's been given, and kind of seeing what Bruce can do with what he's got right now.
I love it. I really do like the Bruce stuff. It's really good.
Yeah. I do like, it's just he can't get away from being Batman, where super crime happens all around him. World-renowned doctors are kidnapped like a mile from his property.
Super crimes happen all around me. So yeah, good stuff. I'm still interested in this story and kind of seeing where it's going to continue to go here. Anything else to say about it before we start to wrap up?
I'm excited. We got 3 more issues left in Knightfall, so we're
next time it's chapter 17 and Batman 499. I will mention the trades that I've been looking through have a 3-part Scarecrow story coming up next that happened in Shadow of the Bat, but it is not numbered as part of the main Knightfall series, so we are not reading.
Out of here.
Yeah. And then for our main read next time, we're doing something we've never done before. What's the company that publishes these? Is that Bongo Comics?
Bongo Comics.
We have never read anything from Bongo Comics for the show here, but they are the publishers of the Simpsons and the Futurama comics. And coming up on season 35 of the Simpsons, Futurama is coming back. We thought we'd check this out for the first time and read something of theirs. So we are reading a couple of different things. It's a couple of Simpsons and Futurama crossovers. 2 issues that happened in 2002, and then another 2 issues that happened in 2005. The first story was called The Infinitely Secret Crossover Crisis. The second story was just called Crossover Crisis 2. They're collected together in some collection somewhere, so those 4 issues.
Yeah, it's called The Simpsons Futurama Crossover Crisis.
Yeah. And then, continuing our Knightfall read, and that's what we're doing next time. But, before we leave, it's been about a month since we checked in. I'm sure we have a ton of stuff to talk about in terms of what we've been doing here. Vince, how are you? What's going on?
I'm good. I'm fucking hot. It's hot here in Texas. It's way too hot. It's really hot. So I've been staying inside. I've been playing video games. I beat Tears of the Kingdom this week.
Okay.
I'm very proud of myself.
Wow.
I got to the final battle, and I texted my cousin Mitch, who was on a very early episode here. I'm like, I don't think I can beat this fight. And then the next day I did. I was very proud of myself.
That's how it works. You tell somebody you can't do it, and then you can do it.
And then I started Ghost Trick, which is a DS visual novel.
Ghost Trick Phantom Detective is what it's called.
It just came out for Switch. It's like a point and click adventure from the Ace Attorney people, so it's fucking weird. And you're like a ghost trying to investigate his death, and it's really good. Like, it's just a really tight, murder mystery that reveals its character connections in a really cool way. I'm about a third of the way through it already. It's really good.
Yeah, I've heard good things about that game. Chris, what are you doing?
I am back from summer break. We just had an episode of Your Stupid Minds come out about last week by the time you listen to this, about Body of Evidence, a 1993 movie starring Madonna and Willem Dafoe, where Madonna is charged with murder. The murder weapon, her own body. She was too sexy for her boyfriend. Sexed him to death.
Whoa. That's illegal. I assume in the realm of this movie.
Also, Joe Mantegna, Julianne Moore, a great cast for a very stupid movie.
Cool. Very exciting.
We have a lot of Fat Tony impressions. Since speaking of The Simpsons, this is our next episode of this, because Joe Mantegna is the prosecutor, and we're just like, so Miss Madonna, have you ever done any cocaine?
Very good. I'm always playing a lot of little things here. Maybe I say it every episode. Maybe if I say it enough times, it'll happen. But one day I'll get back to streaming here. But I've been enjoying a nice little early access roguelite on Steam, a shmup called The Void Rains Upon Her Heart. Interesting title, but check it out if you like shmups or roguelites. I think it's pretty nice. But other than that, I don't think I've got anything else to talk about. It's been hot too. I'll plug the heat as well. Check out that heat.
Hot time, summer in the city.
Stay inside or maybe go outside.
I'm going to say, do not endorse this. Go to Vancouver, where it's 70-some degrees Fahrenheit or 20-some Celsius, as they say.
Wow.
You know what I'll plug, actually? My AC window unit died last week, and I live pretty close to Best Buy, like a 10-minute walk. I walked over there, bought an AC unit, and I decided that I could carry it home. And I will say that I did carry it home. I succeeded.
Okay.
I was a little bit of a wreck afterwards, but I succeeded. But I'm gonna plug like a little dolly, or like a little push cart, or just like getting a car or something like that. I'll plug that stuff.
Doing some stretches for your back so that you can carry things a long way.
You know, maybe that's why I could, because I'm always stretching my back. It's the only part of my body I stretch. I don't stretch nothing else, just the back. But I think that's all I got to plug. Be safe, everyone, in this heat. Vince, I love you.
Love you too, bud.
Chris, I love you.
It's only got one use. You better make it count.
Wait a minute. I only get to use your love once? I will say that's better than the 0 times from every previous episode. We're making progress here, folks. We're going to wear him down little by little. I'll win his heart eventually. And listeners, we've already won your hearts. I love you. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see y'all next time. Have a good night. Bye.